I have a quick question. Why are feet so gross? Is it because the image of them is shocking because we always keep them covered? But like hands aren't gross, even though I often sometimes look at my hand and I start to realize that they kind of look like spiders, which is pretty gross. Another thought that I had, just like diapers that you wear at the beginning and usually the end of your life, you can only say that the middle of your life is a time where you will probably never shit while laying down. So another thought that I've just been chewing on a lot, and I'm in no way some sort of authority on this topic by any stretch of the imagination, but I've talked a lot about how kind of innovation in technology seems to be hitting some sort of a plateau. And there's a name for this term where things look exponential. They're going completely straight up, but in reality, they reveal themselves to be an S-curve as they hit the top. And I theorize as a layman that potentially that tech innovation is hitting the top of that S-curve. And I don't have like any hard evidence to support that. It's just sort of a vibe, I guess. But I've been continuing to chew sort of on this idea of technology and the success and the economic profit of it being the result of a dematerialization of various industries. Any technology that innovates in the form of software is digitizing something that exists in our real world. So like, let's use an example of Amazon, right? Amazon is digitizing brick and mortar stores. It's dematerializing them. It's digitizing books. It makes it a lot more malleable from an economic standpoint. You have a lot more control over the overhead. First of all, you make the overhead a lot cheaper, but you can also control the way that the product is delivered, the data that you receive from that product. You can make it hyper efficient. So I'm like trying to think where does that level off? Where does the potential of technology and software level off in terms of what it can realistically dematerialize? And I think there's a correlation with that with AI, where you're thinking, how does somebody profit off of whatever AI brings economically? Because there's no clear winner in the AI race. I think there have been various investment headways that have emerged, whether that was hardware or stock in OpenAI. But the race is so new that it's unclear who the front runner is. And so AI being this emerging next step of the dematerialization of labor, I guess, is probably the biggest argument. Can it follow through with that? Can it actually happen? Because there's some things that just can't be digitized. Experiences, you can't digitize an experience. You can digitize all the steps. Let's use a concert, right? Music, largely digitized. Nobody buys, no one really consumes CDs or physical media in the music sector. So it's like, you can digitize that. You can digitize the ticketing process so that you're not ever having to actually hold a physical ticket. It's all just digital. But the part that you can't make digital is being there. But that is the next step that I feel like the tech industry has made the attempt. They've made the attempt of like VR goggles and augmented reality, virtual reality. They're trying to digitize the experience, but I'm wondering if there's just a hard stop there in terms of the human experience, the X factor that humans crave. I don't know if that's something that can be digitized. So maybe that is the beginning of that level off of that. What seems like an exponential rise in innovation and profit and all that is now leveling off into the S-curve. So there's no point to any of this. It's just I'm just spitballing, right? I'm just thinking about it because it definitely seems like when we look at the iPhone and Mac and Apple and cell phones and computers and video games and movies, and it's like everything is sort of like built to this point and then is just not feeling as exciting as it once did. And it feels like everything sort of collectively is that way. You know, there hasn't been a new Uber or a new Amazon or some new thing that has shook up the environment. I know that's what we all want AI to be. That's what we're all being told AI is. But is it? In your day-to-day at work, you know, I'm sure you use ChatGPT and maybe generative technologies, and I've certainly got excited about certain generative technologies in my own work. But after that wears off, it's not life-changing. It's not life-changing like the smartphone was, or the fastest laptop, or, you know, a game like Grand Theft Auto 5, right? Those were like almost life-changing events, things we think about. You know, AIM, text messaging, those were huge milestones. And now it's just sort of a kind of maybe small iterations of a technology that we're familiar with. So it does feel like something is slowing down. And I feel like I'm trying to articulate what that is, and I can't do it. And I think I'm not alone. I think there's a lot of subconscious consumer feeling that same thing, but it's difficult to know because you can't predict the future. We're inherently bad at predicting the future. The best we can do is look at the history and project that, you know, and predict that line where that trajectory is going. But time and time again, that trajectory has changed very drastically. And Yuval Noah Harari, who's a famous author and philosopher of mine, is notorious for kind of iterating that every time we feel like we're feeling right now, there's a big breakthrough in technology or innovation or just human evolution that sort of brings us to the next step. So maybe we're just on the cusp of that. Maybe that is what AI is. I don't know, but it's something I've been thinking about. So just a thought.